Alrighty. Now, this could be considered either the Monday Night Miracle or the Monday Night Disaster, depending on which side of the coin you're on. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Monday night live stream after, of course, a very entertaining game between the Dolphins. Hold on, wait. A very non-entertaining game between the Dolphins and Titans, and a very entertaining game with the Detroit Lions and, of course, Seattle Seahawks. A very high-scoring matchup. I told you guys all week it was going to be a high-scoring one. It was going to be a shootout. They have been shootouts over the course of the last 2 years, obviously in the favor of the Seahawks in 2022 and 2023, but this year, of course, the Lions reign supreme as they, of course, just continue to complete passes, 18 for 18, absolutely ridiculous. Now, of course, if you had anybody playing in that awful game prior to the Lions and Seahawks kicking off, if you had a perhaps Dolphin by the name of Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, if you had any of those three, I think going forward, unless Tua Tagovailoa is under center, we're screwed. I mean, we are in absolutely shambles situation. Now, as for the other side of the ball, in regards to Mason Rudolph taking over for the injury of Will Levis, I mean, Mason Rudolph played it safe. They ran the ball effectively. If you have Pollard, if you have Tyjae Spears, beautiful. If you have any receivers for that team, I mean, again, for another consecutive week, I think there's only one reception for Calvin Ridley. It's pretty much, it's not looking good. But, I mean, obviously that game is not what we were excited about. Everybody was firing up their Lions and their Seahawks tonight, and it delivered. I mean, obviously, 6 rushing touchdowns in a game like this isn't ideal per se, especially when 3 of them are going to Kenneth Walker. I mean, we'll take it. As a Kenneth Walker manager, I'm happy. But as someone who's taking on Kenneth Walker, that could be the biggest upset. I mean, quite literally, that is the best running back performance that has been put up against the Detroit Lions since early 2022. That's literally the best performance we've seen in a long time. But either way, I'm here not to just talk about in review Week 4, but also talk about how we're going to prepare for Week 5. Again, the thumbnail of today's episode, I'll pop him back up on screen, is Trey Sermon. The reason why we have him and we're going to talk about him over the course of today's live stream is because, again, earlier today, there was a report that Jonathan Taylor, who sustained a high ankle sprain yesterday, that the Colts are considering putting him on the injured reserve. That's going to be something that holds him out for the next 4 weeks. We want to have him on roster. But, again, we'll talk about potential waiver wire targets. In fact, earlier today, I did drop my waiver wire video in regards to Week 5. Xavier Legette, my hidden gem of Week 4 on the cover. So again, if you guys are looking and you have the availability of a Kareem Hunt, of a Trey Sermon, of a Xavier Legette, Dontavion Wicks, these are great potential options. Cade Otton, of course, any of those potential quarterbacks that are available, even if it's Andy Dalton, could end up being of service to you. Either way, let's go ahead and let's get into answering questions. A reminder, if you guys haven't yet already, click the subscribe button down below, click the like button, and of course, outside of that, make sure that when you, in fact, send in a message, whether it is in a live chat or super chat, include your scoring format. Standard, half PPR, full PPR, all the context makes the biggest difference. Thank you. Okay. Dylan sends in the first question. Dylan, where art thou? Question, though. Hopefully it's on the top. He says, forgot to attach to my super chat. My team is Anthony Richardson, Sam Darnold, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, Deontay Johnson, Achane, Swift, Brooks, Dowdle, McBride. Also have BTJ Ridley. Lost this week by 0.2 because of JMO touchdown, and lost week 1 because of 0.6. Jeez, Dylan, that is the fantasy gods are truly testing you this season. They want to see your resolve. That's really all I can say at this point, because that is brutal. I mean, you got a pretty strong team. Obviously, your running backs are in a very tough position considering the Achane situation. DeAndre Swift coming back to life obviously is definitely a bonus, especially prior to this upcoming week's matchup against the Carolina Panthers, which is very exciting for any running back. Obviously, Chase Brown and Zach Moss both benefiting from that this last week. Jonathan Brooks not being activated from the injured reserve is very much so something I didn't anticipate, especially considering Nick Chubb is anticipated to practice this upcoming Wednesday. I did not anticipate that Jonathan Brooks wouldn't be prepared by now, but considering how well Chuba Hubbard has performed over the course of the last 2 weeks, 100-plus rushing yards in both games, a touchdown in each game, it kind of gives the coaching staff a little bit more confidence in terms of getting their, Jonathan Brooks back at a 100% rate rather than 90 and trying to force him into anything. But in terms of your team overall, once you have a healthy, ultimately, once you have a healthy McBride, CeeDee Lamb, Olave, Deontay Johnson, Darnold for the remainder of the season, most likely, because AR, is not really cutting it. You have relatively good depth with even Brooks and Dowdle, BTJ. Yeah, HN is your issue, and I don't think you'll be able to trade him now. Maybe you can find a team that's undefeated in your league and that are willing to give you running back depth, or you can hold out and just wait until Tua Tagovailoa returns from the IR, if in fact he ever does. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the tough nature about it. Old J Running sends in a question, says drop Jennings for Downs, and also drop Braylon Allen for Nick Chubb. Okay, yes to both. That's fine. Jennings, again, when we have a healthy Debo, Kittle, Jennings, again, he had himself a huge reception of 50-plus yards, which is fantastic. We love to see that. But ultimately, in terms of long-term season value, I don't think he's going to sustain as well as we'd like him to. So in this scenario, I don't mind the pivot to Downs. But again, Downs only has value if Flacco is going to be active this week. I think they may give Anthony Richardson the week off just to make sure he's fully healthy. And hopefully, Flacco's going to be lighting it up against Jacksonville. JT sends in a question, says traded Kittle for Burrow and Kincaid. Have Love and Fields. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Wait. Trade Kittle for Burrow and Kincaid. I have Love and Fields. Why would you make that trade? Wait. You would... Doesn't make sense. I'd rather have Kittle. I don't need to have a third quarterback like Burrow. It's unnecessary. I'd rather just have Kittle. He's a better tight end than Kincaid rest of the season. Thank you. All right, John S. sends in a question. Says, hey, Andrew, standard league. I have K9, Saquon, Cook, Pollard, Mason, Charbonnet, and Braylon Allen at my running backs. Rice likely out for the year, and my only other wide receivers are Flowers, Allen, and Chase. What should I do? I mean, trade everything, brother. You know what you should do. Listen, every week I come out and I say, these are the players that we're trading for this week. Last week was Mike Evans and Jaden Reed, and I said it all week long. And I'm going to continue to every week provide players, whether it's via live streams or whether it's via the videos, or whether you ask me straight up, I'll give you players to go after. Now, as of right now, considering week 4 only just concluded, I'm going to have to look at the entire landscape in terms of finding a player that I really do like and I want to go after. But in this circumstance, I mean, K9, Saquon, Cook are your guys rest of the season. Pollard and Mason should be moved. If you don't want to move Mason, if the McCaffrey owner, after hearing the information that came out earlier today, in which McCaffrey has Achilles tendonitis in both legs, if that's not enough for them to scare tactic them into trading for Mason, then they don't want him, and you're keeping Mason, and you're still going to move on from Pollard and try to bring in some running back or wide receiver depth. So again, you want to keep 3 running backs on roster. Mason, again, does have a deadline as to when he disappears, so you don't want to keep him over someone like Kenneth Walker per se. But if you can, if you want to keep Pollard and you want to move Kenneth Walker and go get a top tier wide receiver in exchange, someone's going to give you a monster, then let's go for it. But yeah, you got to trade one of your top guys and get a running back in exchange, or a wide receiver, in exchange. As for who in specific, again, I'm going after AJ Brown. That's probably the guy that, at least in terms of top tier, that you would need. That's who I'm going after. Matt sends in a question, says, someone dropped Puka Nacua. Do I just go all in on Fab? Yes, drop every single dollar. Do not hold back. The whole entire clip. Thank you. All right, YG sends in a question, says, how do you feel about Montgomery's usage today? Seems like Gibbs is getting more and more work, and Montgomery usually gets. I mean, look, here's the thing. Montgomery's overall usage is going to fluctuate in time. It is very much so dependent on the overall kind of game script. Understand that, again, Gibbs getting 2 rushing touchdowns isn't out of the norm. This is a run-first offense. They're going to find success. Montgomery's always going to be a double-digit fantasy kind of prospect or potential. I don't even know how many points he scored today, to be totally honest. I didn't even look down at fantasy this whole time. I was enjoying the games. Let's see here. What did Montgomery do today? David Montgomery, 14.5. I mean, in terms of his quote-unquote usage, I mean, you mean like, 13 touches? I mean, when you have a drive where you come out and you throw a 70-yard touchdown on the first play to Jamison Williams, obviously that makes a huge difference in terms of the overall kind of potential of David Montgomery getting more touches throughout the game. But again, we all know that David Montgomery, based on what he has done thus far this season and what he'll continue to do, is going to be a lower-end RB1. He's going to be like either 11, 12, 13. That's where he finished last season. He finished as RB13 overall, even having missed 2 games throughout the year with injury. And because now we're getting far more utilization out of Gibbs, it'll keep Montgomery healthy and it'll keep his value intact as a top 12 potential option at running back, which again does not worry me. In fact, I think that the more usage that we get for Gibbs only continues to solidify the fact that Montgomery's not going to get injured like he did last year, because they were, you guys remember last season, Thursday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers? They gave him 32 rushing attempts in that game. Soon after, the next week, they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He gets injured early in the game. So, there are going to be situations where, again, you want to keep your players healthy, and they're going into a bye, so he's going to come out fresh, and hopefully they'll get him more touches. But again, either way, top 12 option. No problems at all with that. All right, we move on to Brandon, who sends in a question. Thank you, Brandon. Says, Rice gave me my first L of the season. No. Okay, guys, hold on, wait. Let's get the finger pointing straight, okay? When you guys say Rice gave me my first L, no. It wasn't Rice. It was Patrick Mahomes, who threw his shoulder pad straight into Rice's kneecap, okay? Let's not get it twisted here. All right, there is someone who's responsible for that injury. Mahomes throws a pick and then just frivolously runs downfield and just puts his shoulder into the side of Rice's knee. So let's deliver blame where it's due. Patrick Mahomes lost you your first game this year, okay? Not Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice gave in a great effort, and unfortunately he went down. Anyway, continuing on with your question. 10-team PPR. Need a wide receiver for week 5. I have Neighbors, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Sutton, Shaheed, Deontay Johnson. Pick 3. Beautiful. If Neighbors clears concussion protocol, he plays alongside of Deontay Johnson, and I will probably then play Rashid Shaheed. I'm thinking about playing Garrett Wilson there, but I think it depends on what Olave's status looks like. If Olave ends up missing because he tweaked his hamstring again at the end of that game, Neighbors, Shaheed, and Deontay is going to be the suggestion. But I could see myself convincing myself to potentially play Garrett Wilson as the week goes on. But it's going to be a London game. It's going to be against Minnesota's defense. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers and the boys did not look great against the Denver Broncos. I'll eat my words. I said that there's no way that the Broncos would beat the Jets, and they fucking did. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, that's what I'm suggesting as of right now. And then your running backs are Kamara and Cook, so you're good to go. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to Abide Los Angeles, who says, I have Kyler. Drop Anthony Richardson for Love or Fields? Yeah, I'd drop him for Love. Jordan Love is, yeah, he's great. So, yeah, I don't mind that drop. Thank you. Moving on to Matthew Schultz, or Schutz, who says, PPR rest of season trade, Christian McCaffrey, Marvin Harrison, or James Cook, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy. Again, I don't guarantee. Look, there's no. Okay. So, considering the information that we currently have, we were first told that Christian McCaffrey is going to be on the injured reserve and he'll come back after the injured reserve. Now we're hearing that he's not going to return until early November. And then we're hearing that he went to Germany to see a specialist. Everything that we're beginning to hear is beginning to snowball in a direction where, if in fact the Christian McCaffrey timeline is pushed even further, you may be in even more trouble. So cashing in on McCaffrey if you don't have Mason and getting Cook and Garrett Wilson may actually in fact be the better of the two choices, and bringing in Worthy, considering again all of the injuries. Marquise Hollywood Brown out for the remainder of the season. There's a potential in which Rashee Rice is out for the remainder of the season. I'll take the Cook side of that deal, Matthew. Thank you. All right. Ziggy Lee says, PPR, Breece Hall for Jaden Daniels with Richardson as my quarterback. I would not trade Breece Hall for Jaden Daniels. I would not do so. I understand Breece Hall's coming off of a very poor performance. I know he hasn't ran well in terms of his yard per carry averages thus far this season, but the value that you have in regards to Breece Hall remainder of the season, in regards to his impact comparatively to Jaden Daniels, I think you're better off just going and picking apart the waiver wire, whether that is Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, and surviving with those. Thank you. Akuma187 says, going forward, 4-point per passing touchdown, Mahomes or Jordan Love? Jordan Love, rest of the season. I'll take Jordan Love. Thank you very much. Again, Mahomes has no weapons, guys. I talked about it earlier today on the waiver wire video in which I was talking about Kareem Hunt. They're going to run the ball more than they probably ever have in Kansas City. Because who's he going to throw the ball to? He has Kelsey, he has Worthy, and that's it. Now, I don't know if it's possible, but just hear me out. Let's say, for example, Devontae Adams' hamstring injury was a phantom injury. Maybe it wasn't a serious injury. I'm not questioning his competitiveness. I'm not questioning anything. I'm just saying, what if it was? Is there a possibility that the Las Vegas Raiders would trade away Devontae Adams to the Chiefs this early in the season? Because honestly, the Chiefs need to trade for a receiver. They do. I know they're 4-0, but they need a receiver. If they're not going to have Rashee Rice for the remainder of the year, like if they want to three-peat, they legitimately want an effort to do so, they need another receiver. So, I mean, Let's hope. I mean, again, there are a lot of veteran wide receivers across the league that you could go and vie for. And if they start knocking on doors, I'm going to hope that we get more information regarding those players as to who it may be. But fingers crossed, maybe Devontae Adams. I doubt it, though, because they're such division rivals. Anyway, moving on, we had MTD _ who says, rest of season, Brian Thomas Jr., Addison, or Deontay Johnson? Really good question. If you could guarantee me that Andy Dalton would be the starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers for the remainder of the season, I would say it's Deontay Johnson. Now, if that cannot be guaranteed to me, I would then pivot to BTJ, and I would have Addison second and Deontay third. So that's how I'm going to break it down. It's a matter of, can I get a guarantee of Andy Dalton rest of the season? If I cannot, it's going to be BTJ. And considering nothing is guaranteed in this world, that's kind of the direction I'd lean in, is BTJ. Otherwise, again, it is Deontay. He's looked incredible the last 2 weeks. That's the player that I thought would exist with Bryce Young at quarterback. That's what I thought. But obviously, Dave Canales, who was able to transform Geno's career in 2022, Baker's career in 2023, is somehow transforming Andy Dalton's career in 2024, which was was not on my bingo card, to say the very least. All right, let's see here. We had another question sent in from El Sway. El Sway, thank you. Should I drop Juwan Jennings or Darnell Mooney or hold? I'm okay dropping Juwan Jennings there. Darnell Mooney's a keep. Leggett and Wan'Dale Robinson are waiver. Okay, got it. So considering those are the two available options on the waivers, I'd pick them both up. Yeah. I would prioritize picking up Leggett and dropping Juwan Jennings elsewhere. And then the second priority would be Wan'Dale Robinson for Mooney. That way, if you don't get Wan'Dale, you at least get to keep Mooney and not just drop him preemptively. So that's the direction I go in. I'd be willing to go ahead and make that move. Definitely worth a shot. Thank you. Let's see here. Handle Hype sends in a question. There wasn't anything attached to it, Handle. Message retracted. Let's see. Let me see if I can find your message in the live chat. Handle Hype says, in a half PPR, Mahomes, Chase, Nico, Godwin, Gibbs, Kamara, Kincaid, Reed, and Fairbairn. Should I offer Dobbins and or Lazard / Addison for Cup? Okay, so considering the team that you have, if you were to trade away Dobbins and Lazard for Cup, I'd say yes, let's do it immediately. I'm perfectly fine. I'm happy with doing so. I think Dobbins does still have great value rest of the season. Obviously didn't perform well this week, mainly because both of his starting offensive tackles weren't active, and we knew that by Sunday morning. That's why I moved him so much further down in the overall rankings list. But yeah, as of right now, I would take that deal. I would try to get Cup if you can. Thank you, Handle. I appreciate it. Moving on to a question that came in from RJ. It says, are we worried about Ayuk? I mean, I think worried might be an understatement. Here's the thing. Not having a training camp for some players is a huge deal, right? And for some others, it's not. CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, they are the peak of the wide receiver conversation. They are the elite of the elite. Brandon just got himself... he kind of snuck himself into the conversation. Like, he almost willed his overall contract to be that expensive. Did he earn it? I mean, technically, yes, his contributions in the past earned him that contract, but maybe his contributions in the future. Can Brandon Ayuk be the new Kenny Golladay? That's the question. Is he going to cash in and then just kind of slip away? Hopefully not, but definitely not feeling great right now as of his potential and his production as of late. All right, Zeus sends in a question with a Boromir picture. Says, hey, Andrew, 12-man full PPR. Potential trade. I lose Jonathan Taylor and DJ Moore for Adams and A.J. Brown. I also have Gibbs, Montgomery, Chubb, Brooks, Godwin, and Higgins. As it currently stands, okay, so rest of season value, right? Full straight up in a full PPR. I prefer A.J. Brown over Jonathan Taylor, and I prefer Adams over DJ Moore. So if you can make this deal, fantastic. Obviously, you won't have the services of A.J. Brown as he goes into a week 5 bye, but and you may not even have the services of Adams because his hamstring is bothering him. But ultimately, in the long term, yes, I would say that is the better value proposition in comparison to what you currently have. So yeah, I'd make the deal. Thank you. Moving on to OJ Running, who says a follow-up. Says, drop Jennings for Keenan Allen or Addison in a PPR. I'm going to say let's do it for Addison. I like Keenan Allen a lot. I knew that my anticipation this offseason was that the decline would arrive and that Rome Odunze would overtake him. The offense just doesn't look the same. I don't know if it's just, I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't look the same because he's still ailing from that injury. Like, he's forcing himself to play throughout all those limited practices. Maybe he's still hurt. And that in itself is, perhaps enough to to just prioritize somebody else in an offense that's just so much more competent at the moment. So I'd take Addison. Thank you. We move on to the real Franklin, who says, I have Jonathan Taylor. Sermon is on the waivers. I have $69 of fab left. How much would you put to secure him? Okay, I think it depends, right? So if Jonathan Taylor is going to be sent to the injured reserve, I think it's a matter of you spending a little bit more than you need to, rather than if they say he's going to be day-to-day, we're not going to put him on the IR. So if they were going to say, hey, he's going to the IR, he's going to miss the next 4 weeks, looking at the Colts schedule just really quickly, Colts schedule. I just want to see where their bye week is. So the Colts don't have a bye week till week 14. So again, yeah. So if theoretically they were to put him on the IR, he would not return until Minnesota in week 9 if we were lucky. Because there's always a possibility, just like they did last year, once Jonathan Taylor came back from his original injury, it wasn't really an injury. It was more like he wanted a contract. They didn't give it to him. Either way, it took him a couple weeks to ramp up after he came back. I think, what did he return in week 5 of last season? By week 7, he was good, but weeks 5 and 6, he was nobody. So let's say you don't get a full traction running Jonathan Taylor till week 10. Okay. So you're going to miss out 5 weeks of potential. At that point, considering that is your handcuff and there's potential injury complications, you're probably spending 25 to 30. And I think you may think that's a lot, but if they legitimately put him on the IR, then you have to spend it because you're losing all of your RB1's value. And if you don't have an actual depth of roster to be able to compensate for it, then you're going to have to spend. Now, if they said, hey, he's going to be out maybe 1 to 2, 3 weeks max. Okay, I'll spend 15. It's a scaling kind of difference as to the necessity of it and the actual guaranteed volume of time that he could miss. But yeah, I'd spend a lot. I'm not saying empty the fab, clip per se, because again, Sermon's not starting for the rest of the season. He's just filling in for a 4-week gap here. But a pretty penny is definitely desired to kind of be spent on it. Failure is no option says, what are your thoughts on Arizona Cardinals offense? Don't even get me started, man. They're not good. That's it. They're just not good. They have beaten one bad football team. And when I say a bad football team, I mean the Los Angeles Rams cannot play defense. And that's the only team that they've beaten. Outside of that, the good football teams, Buffalo, Detroit, Washington, have just manhandled them. And it is apparent that no matter how advantageous the matchup is, Kyler Murray is still really, they focus on the running game. They don't really want to pass the ball much, which is very interesting. I think it's a play calling issue rather than a talent issue because the talent is there. They have enough talent. But the fact that you're not able to expose the secondary of Washington, of all teams, is alarming. So definitely concerned. Hopefully they turn it around. Hopefully there's a lot of self-reflection, not only from the players, but the coaching staff, because they called a terrible game across the board. I don't see how that was managed to be put together. But again, I will argue that the week before against Detroit was also a terribly managed and called game. Moving on to Big Drop, who says, I'm 2 and 2, excuse me. What moves do you recommend? I have Burrow, keep him. Gibbs, keep him. ETN, all right, we'll talk about. Neighbors, Nico, Reed, Debo, good. McBride, good. Okay, so great. So everything is fantastic. Mostert, Ford, Dowdle, Spears, Tutu, Judy. Got it. So your biggest issue is just RB2. And quite frankly, that's kind of a good issue to have, considering everything else is filled out so beautifully by great players across the board. Really, I have no complaints. The only thing you can theoretically do, because I'm not trading anybody, Burrow, Gibbs, Neighbors, Nico, Reed, Debo, and McBride do not need to move. If you're playing in a 3 wide receiver 1 flex league or 2 wide receiver 2 flex league, you're great. If you're playing in a league where you're like, hey, Andrew, here's the thing. There's only 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex, start 7. I could justify a potential in which you're taking Debo and ETN and trying to upgrade, but honestly, I'd rather have the depth just in case of injury, just in case of upcoming bye weeks. They still keep you competitive. So ultimately, I'm saying you hold. You see if ETN can come of value in the future, and you hope that maybe Dowdle, Ford, Spears, somebody on your bench puts up good performances. Maybe you take Dowdle and Spears after this week and you go ship them and try to go get a running back that has been lower of value. Maybe you take ETN and Spears, ETN and Dowdle, and go knock on maybe a Josh Jacobs door or something of that nature. Thank you. Sada sends in a question, says PPR, keep Josh Jacobs, Cooper. Got offered David Montgomery. Okay, so Amari Cooper had a 70-yard receiving touchdown called back by a holding that really just wasn't even the holding didn't really make a huge difference on the play as a whole, but he got a 70-yard touchdown called back. So I wouldn't really say that Amari Cooper is completely washed. He's still going to have value rest of the season, and so is Josh Jacobs. When you're down 28 points, really you cannot run the ball. That's why he ends up with 9 rushing attempts by the end of the game. I think it will be a far more acceptable experience, especially considering Josh Jacobs this week takes on the Rams. When DeAndre Swift is running for 6 yards per carry against you, just imagine what anybody else can do thus far this season. So again, I think if I'm in your position, I'm probably holding. If you felt so adamant about getting rid of these players and you're really not thinking with like an actual structure for the rest of the season, but just rather thinking with your emotions, then you can make the move. But otherwise, I'm just saying you got to hold. Thank you. We move on to a question who comes in from Rogo. It says, did I mess up dropping Chase Brown for Hunt? I don't think so. Look, Chase Brown, again, based on the usage that we have seen from Zach Moss, they really like to use Zach Moss, and they actually prefer him as the receiving back. So considering that is the case, obviously that was something that was the proposition of Chase Brown's value this offseason was Zach Moss is not going to be the receiving back, and theoretically, if they're a negative game script, there will be a lot more Chase Brown. That's not the case. They still have Zach Moss as the pole position running back, and Moss is going to get himself touches going forward, just like he did last year with Mixon. So as to the volume of touches, obviously taking on Carolina, it's a lot easier to go ahead and find success on the ground and continue to rely upon it. But Hunt, again, is going to be the starting running back of that team until the return of Pacheco, which, again, they said 6 to 8 weeks. Could be 6, could be 8, could be 9. Who knows? But as of right now, Hunt is still going to be the starter for the next 6 weeks here. So you will have a lot of value out of that. Now, in terms of late season, after Pacheco returns, then we can talk about dropping Chase Brown being a mistake. Thank you. Moving on to Ross Wong, who says the following. Potential trade. Jamar Chase for Kyron and DJ Moore. Jamar Chase for Kyron and DJ Moore. Very thin at running back. I'm okay with it. You want to make that trade, I'm okay with it. I don't love DJ Moore as a potential option rest of season. Again, nothing that Caleb Williams has done on a consistent basis has really given me like the most excitement about the potential. That's why I'm not saying, hey, we're going out and trading for DJ Moore, X, Y, or Z. But Kyron, again, he's going to keep getting himself 20 touches. And once this offense, as in the receiving core, becomes a healthy mainstay, they're always going to be in negative game scripts, and they're going to have to always score 30 points every week in order to keep up. And as long as, Kyron stays healthy, I don't mind it. Do I love it? No. But considering, again, you need running back, and I'm looking at your RB depth, Ramondre, Pollard, Chase Brown, Zamir, yeah, it doesn't look great. That's for sure. That's for certain. Pollard's really your only consistent option, perhaps for the remainder of the season, especially with New England and their terrible play calling. I mean, my God, are they just a disaster of a team? But yeah, if you want to make a move of that caliber, I don't mind it. Obviously, if you're moving Chase, getting a player of caliber, of the caliber of Kyron is fine. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Billy Roy. Thank you, Billy. Says, what's up, Andrew? I'm in a PPR league. I have Kamara, Dobbins, Bucky Irving as my running backs. Very well. I'd like a better RB2. Lamb, London, Deontay Johnson, Pickens. Trade for more or keep. I mean, here's the thing. If you want a better RB2, someone's going to... Okay, so if you're going to trade for a running back, they're going to ask for a running back in exchange unless somebody has a blessing worth of running backs that really they just want to hand people away. If you can go find a team in your league who has 4 starting running backs that one of them is always on the bench and they're willing to part with them, great. And you may be able to just give away like a Deontay Johnson in order to bring this back, or a George Pickens to get it back. But ultimately, majority of the time, if you're going to need a running back, they're going to ask one in return. So you're going to probably have to send Dobbins, Deontay, or Dobbins, Pickens in order to get a running back in exchange. I'm going to tell you to go get Josh Jacobs again. Again, I am all in on the idea that if you want to buy low on a running back, that's the guy. When I look across the entire fantasy board, there really isn't anybody else that technically, at this current circumstance, is like an absolute buy low that you could get from where they were in the preseason to where they currently stand. You can maybe go after Mixon because he hasn't played the last 2 games, and kind of just like in the same way in which we talked about going after Kenneth Walker last week, you can maybe perhaps buy the idea of like, oh, they really don't know what the value of their running back is, but considering they've had no production out of them the last 2 weeks, they think maybe less of that player. You can go after Mixon theoretically, but ultimately, there really isn't anyone that I can think off the top of my head or even look at this board and think, yeah, you should probably go after them, because everybody else is either high value or low value, and there's no in between. Like the in between players, no, there's no in betweens. It is top heavy in fantasy right now. It is so top heavy. So yeah, as of right now, that's the way that I would approach it. But I mean, if you could buy low on Breece Hall, you would. But unfortunately, no one's going to take Dobbins and Deontay for that. You'd have to like give Dobbins and London, and maybe they even take that. I doubt they even take that at that point. Otherwise, again, go after the Josh Jacobs. Thank you, Billy. YG says, I traded Tyreek Hill and Achane for Kyron and Sun God after week 1 in a 14-team PPR. Do I try to trade back when two? No. Listen, for now, keep it as is. Because here's the thing about Tua, okay? If you trade back, if anything happens to Tua, if he even falls down the wrong way, his season's over. You know how, okay, if you guys watch Sunday Night Football, you guys saw the lick that Josh Allen took after he fumbled on that little trick play that they had. When his head bounced off the grass, like those are the kind of hits that if Tua takes, they're shutting him down for the season. He may have to retire. They may force him to. They'll be like, all right, we're done. We can't do this anymore. We don't want you to die on the field. So, no, I would not trade back, YG. Thank you. But otherwise, I mean, you obviously set yourself for success with that trade. Justin sends in a question, says, I'm 1-3. What do I do what do you from mind for me? That was a very butcher sentence. What do you from mind for me? Yeah, I don't know what that means, but let's see the team. Murray, Mason, K9. Okay, beautiful. CeeDee Lamb, Olave, Achane, Rice, McBride, Hunt, Braylon Allen, Lad McConkey, Jameson Williams, Shakir. Okay, cool. And you have Met. When you say Met, do you mean you have Metcalf? Justin, you're fine, man. Even with losing Rice and even with having a dud Achane, you have Hunt on the bench. You have Jameson Williams, Metcalf, Shakir, and Lad McConkey that can feasibly fill in. I mean, shoot. I mean, Metcalf has to play every week. I don't even know why he's not in your lineup. I guess you benched him behind Olave, I guess, this week, which doesn't make any sense. But anyway, maybe it's Komet and you just forgot to put the K. Either way. Without Rashee Rice, Lad McConkey, Shakir, and Jameson Williams will fill in. And Hunt will fill in for Achane until further notice. Otherwise, I'm not moving anything. Your team is stable as is. If you were to move, I think you would have to move Mason in order to get a running back out of the team that has McCaffrey right now. Otherwise, you hold. Thank you. Stanky Rondo says, do I drop Aaron Rodgers for Justin Fields? Yes. I mean, you should have had Justin Fields on the team way before. I've had Justin Fields ranked in my top 16 quarterbacks 3 of the last 4 weeks on Sunday mornings. Rodgers has not made that list once, and nor will he anytime soon. So, yes, let's grab Fields. Best waiver wire kicker, Boswell or McLaughlin? I like McLaughlin. Again, I just trust the offense to be a little bit more compelling, especially down the stretch, to score more points and put themselves into better positions. Boswell's still consistent, but you're going to probably get a consistent like 8 to 9 to 10 points every week. Boswell has that little bit more peak of upside potentially. All right, let's see here. Fibonacci sends in a question. Says, I'm 2-2 with the most points for in my league. Okay, beautiful. Then you're in a good spot. Trade AJ Brown and Godwin for Connor and Tyreek Hill. I have Chase, Neighbors, J-Mo, Shakir. Running backs are Bijan, Jacobs, Najee, and Pacheco. Okay, running backs are Bijan, Jacobs, Najee, Pacheco. So theoretically, you'd bring in Connor, which is a top tier option theoretically, but you're getting rid of that and that. I don't think I do it. I think I keep what you have, legitimately. I think you can survive with Bijan and Jacobs and Najee, legitimately. I think if you were to give away... Okay, so this is the only thing that I would say. I'm willing to make a trade in which you're like sending away Godwin and somebody else, and maybe, like, let's say you send away Godwin and Najee and they give you, I don't know, a running back of sorts. Great. I'm not sending AJ Brown for Tyreek Hill. I don't want to do it. There's too much inherent risk involved there. Now, considering you are blessed with wide receiver depth with Chase and Neighbors and AJ Brown and Godwin, again, if you're playing in a 3 wide receiver 1 flex league, you should keep it as is and just keep crushing teams. Again, you have the most points for, so that's just going to eventually, after time, lead to you being the on the winning side of these overall exchanges. So as of right now, I probably don't make the trade, and I would go to get a running back a different way, specifically not giving away AJ Brown. I want Chase, Neighbors, and Brown rest of the season. Thank you. Damien sends in a question, says, what should I do with Garrett Wilson? You got to hold on to him. Again, if you were to try to sell him now, you'd be getting pennies on the dollar theoretically as to his overall value of upside. So in this circumstance, I probably end up holding on to him and seeing where that offense goes. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers just doesn't give him the ball as many times as we thought he would. I mean, honestly, we thought Garrett Wilson would be in line for 12 targets a game. Not 12, but 10 targets a game on average. When we have guys like London hitting those numbers with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, it's crazy. But going forward, again, you kind of have to hold, because selling him now would just be selling him very, very low. Peyton says, how many bags of chips are we doing for Mark Andrews? I think Mark Andrews might be like a... let me think about this. Okay, so in terms of the chips, I don't think he's even worth a bag of chips. I think he's worth like a bag of popcorn, and not the good kind. Like, he's worth like, those like nobody even knows the brand of the popcorn bag. And we're not even talking about the popcorn is not popped. It is still like flat. Okay, we still need to put it in the microwave, and the chances are it comes out burnt anyway. That's what we would trade Mark Andrews for at this point, and we'll take it, because at this point it's over. I mean, I don't know, guys, in the last couple years of doing this, okay, I have never felt so much despair on Sundays based on the lack of production from players. Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts is ridiculous. It's actually insane. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. But hey, it is the new reality, so we have to continue. But yes, that's what we'll trade him for. Thank you. Craig Lister says, or Craigslist user, that's actually your name. I just keep calling you Craig every time anyway. 10-team half PPR, 2-flex league. Hurts, Lamb, London, Hall, Connor, Ferguson, Jamo, Allen, Hopkins, Love. Okay, trade Mason or Etienne for Olave and McLaurin. I'd be okay trading Etienne for Olave. Looking at your running backs, you have Connor, you have Hall, and you have Mason. If you were to, okay, so here's the deal, right? Mason probably is the one that you want to move, because again, you don't have, McCaffrey likely out for the season, out all season. If that's a possibility, okay, look, do you have McCaffrey? If you don't have McCaffrey and you are of the belief that McCaffrey's out for the remainder of the season, then you hold on to Mason and you would trade Etienne to get Olave. Because again, Olave, assuming he's healthy again and is not going to re-aggravate that hamstring injury, is more valuable. MTD sends in a question, says, thoughts on Dobbins, Stevenson, Connor, and JMO rest season. Connor's great. Again, was able to get himself all the production in that offense. He's quite literally the only consistent piece. Stevenson, again, is a part of the worst offense in the league. He was last year, but he was still relevant last season. So again, he's had a couple rough weeks, but again, against some pretty good defenses, New York Jets and San Francisco, respectively. Now, as for Dobbins, he will get better over time. Again, starting with both your offensive tackles out does not help, especially when you take on Kansas City, which is also another great defense. And JMO, he had 1 reception tonight, but we'll take it. I don't care. Like, as long as Jameson Williams has the potential of that, it's great. There are going to be games in which he disappears, and that's going to happen. He had 2 receptions for 80. So be it. That's the kind of player he is, and that's kind of the situation that you're buying in on. He, in my mind, is Rashid Shaheed for the Lions. That's what I see it as. But he obviously is playing the backseat role to every other threat in the offense in comparison to Shaheed, who really is becoming a primary role kind of option. So I would say he's the 2023 Rashid Shaheed of that offense. How about that as an example? Mustafa sends in a question. Says, I have Gibbs, Brian Robinson Jr., Pollard, K9, Bucky Irving, CD, Evans, London, and Pickens. If I'm trying to get AJ Brown, who do I trade? Okay, well, it depends. If you want AJ Brown, likelihood is you have to give a receiver. So they want your best receiver, which is CD Lamb, which you're not going to give. So at that point, you're going to be selling Evans, London, or Pickens. I would assume out of all 3 of those, they'd be most inclined to either take London or Evans, based on, of course, the offenses they're associated with and the production they have demonstrated thus far this season. So if you're going to be in a situation where you can send one of those 2 and they'll take Bucky Irving on top of it, beautiful. If they won't, I'd be willing to send an offer of like London and Pollard, but I think maybe that's even too much at this point, especially considering, like, if you're playing in a league that has multi-flex, I'd keep it and I wouldn't even go for it. But so, like, yeah, maybe the best offer is like Pollard and Pickens or Brian Robinson and Pickens for AJ Brown, because I think giving up anything else might be a little too much for just AJ Brown, which again is going to be a 20-point wide receiver in a full PPR. Don't get it twisted. He's going to be great, but I don't know if I want to give away so much depth of, for just one singular player when I know injuries are coming and I know bye weeks are coming and I know they could very easily devastate your team with one player going down, just like how Rashee Rice did it. So as of right now, yeah, I think you're probably trying to pair like Pollard and Pickens or Brian Robinson and Pickens. If they want Evans and Bucky or London and Bucky, you could probably hand that off. Try those and see if see what they say. If they come back to you and say they want Evans and Brian Robinson, give them the middle finger. Keep it moving. Indrajit says, I'm struggling at quarterback position. Is Geno serviceable? I mean, technically, yeah, he plays the Giants this upcoming week. He had an unbelievable, it wasn't an unbelievable game, but 400, 350, 400 passing yards today, one passing touchdown, we'll take it. In terms of overall production, let's see, I had him on my sleeper team. What did he produce today? 22.6. Again, and his upcoming schedule is pretty solid. I mean, when I look at it as a whole, New York Giants, San Francisco, who looks human, Atlanta, and then Buffalo, which again, I probably won't play him against Buffalo, but until then, pretty serviceable considering your quarterback issue. Young Money says, trade wide receiver Brian Thomas for Dontavion Wicks. Nope, I keep Brian Thomas. Thank you. Seta says, what do you think I should do with JT? Let's wait until we see what the information regarding him kind of consists of tomorrow. If he's going to be week to week and he's not going to the injured reserve, then it's promising. If he goes to the IR, then we can talk about it. We move on to Anthony O, who says, half PPR, should I trade Josh Jacobs for Rashid Shaheed? Nope, I keep Josh Jacobs. Thank you. Chase McGraw sends in a question, says, Kenneth Walker and Pollard played hero ball for me tonight. Yeah, that's right. But how do we feel about Kareem Hunt moving forward, going to have to start him this week? I think it's great. Again, the Chiefs are going to have to run the ball more than they ever have. They have no weapons at their disposal. Like at this current moment in time, the receiving core of the Kansas City Chiefs, like the actual primary wide receivers, they're going to be running the vast majority of routes over the course of the next, really the rest of the season, because unless they trade for someone, this is what they have. Their wide receivers are Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman. I don't see much there. I don't see much. And trust me, when Mahomes is not able to throw for more than 200 yards a game, neither does he. So in this scenario, yeah, we're probably in a position where Kareem Hunt's going to be given the ball 20 times per game going forward, which obviously looked good, obviously coming off the couch. Joshua Delgado sends in a question, says, Geno Smith and Pollard for Rashad White and Deontay Johnson. I don't really want to be trading for Rashad White, but if you're getting Deontay Johnson and you already have a stud quarterback, I'm okay with it. That's fine. National Champ Rush says, who do you think finishes higher, DK or Debo? Here's the issue with Debo. I can't guarantee he stays healthy. That's the issue with him. That has always been the issue. If you told me, hey, Andrew, Debo's going to be healthy for the remainder of the season, I tell you that Debo Samuel's going to have more value rest of the season for fantasy value, especially without Christian McCaffrey active for as long as he's going to be. That just opens up more rushing touchdowns for Debo to have and more rushing opportunity. Obviously, that was his first game back from his overall injury, so they were let me look at his overall snap counts. Let's see what it looked like in comparison to norm. If I go down to San Francisco here. So as it currently stands, he's coming off a game where he only played 76% of the snaps. Like that's low for Debo standard. Even if I go back to 2023 and look at Debo standard, Debo standard is like looking across 87, 89, 87, 85, 76, 83, 86, 96, 84. Again, not a huge difference, probably 10% of the snaps deducted, but also a lot of decoy Samuel in those scenarios. But as of right now, yes, I would think he probably has more value theoretically rest of the season. Seta says, I have Jacobs, Gibbs, JT, Bucky, DK, BTJ, JMO, Amari, Pittman. Do you think I hold on to JT or do I try to go after a wide receiver? Depends on whether or not he's on the IR. If he's on the IR, look, if you're trying to preemptively buzzer beater before he gets put on the IR, you could try to do it and go after a wide receiver. And you can survive at running back with Jacobs and Gibbs. But you'd have to do it tonight because tomorrow morning before you wake up, that decision will probably have been made as to whether or not they're going to put him on the IR. Let's see here. The Real Franklin sends him a follow-up, says, is Pollard for Addison fair? I'd rather have Pollard. I don't think giving Pollard is... if you're going to give away Pollard based on how he's looked this season, weeks 1, 2, and 4, you should get way more than Addison in return. Way, way more. They're not comparable. They're not equal in terms of value. You'd be getting fleeced. I love women sends in a question. Says, I have Ford and Sutton. Should I trade for Hunt/London? Yes, Ford needs to be traded immediately because Nick Chubb's practicing Wednesday. So if you can get away with trading Ford and Sutton for London and Hunt, you're fleecing that team. Thank you. Moving on to DC 650, who sends in a question. Thank you, DC. I don't see your question in the chat, DC, but maybe I can scroll a little bit and find it. Hi, Andrew. I just lost Rashi Rice. Should I trade Cook for St. Brown and 49ers defense? What? Cook for St. Brown and 49ers defense. If James Cook for St. Brown. Yes. Yes. No questions asked. Insta accept. Thank you very much. We'll take it. We'll take St. Brown. Thank you very much. Keep moving. Thank you, DC. That is crazy. Okay. Moving on. We had a question that came in from Rohith DV, who says Lamar, Saquon, Swift, London, Reed, Pitts, Odunze, Atwell, Emmanuel Wilson, Bigsby, Christian McCaffrey, Cup 3-1. I'm in a 12-man, 2 flex, 1 IR spot league. Any changes I should make? Okay, Lamar's great. Saquon's great. Swift, again, it may be a sell high at this point after this week, but he plays against Carolina next week. So it'd probably be easier to sell him after consecutive weeks of high production, but there's definitely a risk inherently involved in that because he could end up dropping a goose egg against the Carolina Panthers, even though I doubt that occurring. But I think it's probably better to just hold on the Swift, play him this week, especially considering you have Saquon out on bye week. So you play Swift this week. You get whatever bonus you get out of him. If you think he can contain that value and remain of service to you for the remainder of the season, keep him. Otherwise, you ship him out in week 6. Reed, London are great. Pitts, you need to pick up a new tight end like immediately and bench him. And as for Christian McCaffrey, Cup, if you haven't already tried to trade for Mason, you should have already tried that by now and see if you can get him in return. Otherwise, Cup doesn't come back till week 7, but you've waited long enough to where you kind of have to hold. How much should I drop on Sermon, Hill, Wicks? I would say that Sermon is probably depending on how it comes out. Like if they say he's going to the IR, in your position, I'm putting 15% on it because you need running back. As for Wicks, I probably just put 15% on that regardless, maybe even more, because if Christian Watson's going to miss significant time and that offense is just going to keep pumping, I probably want a piece of it more than anything, especially in a full PPR. Because again, Sermon, the issue is he's good, but he's not Jonathan Taylor. So regardless of what opportunities he gets, he won't be as high in upside theoretically and doesn't have as much long-term value as Wicks, unless, of course, we get different information tomorrow. As for Taysom Hill, he got another injury again, so I'm not really too interested in picking him back up. Jacob Barney sends in a question. Says, I lost to Kenneth Walker. I'm 2-2. Any trades needed or suggestions? We have Burrow, Anthony Richardson. Okay, so you have Burrow. That's it. Done. Thank you. Gibbs, Achane, Montgomery. Okay, so you have Gibbs and Montgomery until otherwise noted. You have Brooks, Hubbard. Okay, good. Javonte Corum, Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Pickens. Okay, Bowers, Ferguson. Great. Okay, so look, you have a solid quarterback. You've got 2 solid tight ends. You've got 3 solid running backs with the potential of Brooks and Achane for the future. You've got Jamar, DK, Devontae Smith, Pickens. Their waivers are Love. I'd pick up Love and I'd drop Aaron Rodgers and drop Anthony Richardson, Wicks, Wando Robinson. At this point, what I would do is I'd pick up Love for Anthony Richardson. I would look to see if the Kyle Pitts manager in your league really wants Ferguson, and then try to make a move to where you're not trading for Pitts, but you're trading away Ferguson in exchange for a better potential player. Like maybe you send Ferguson and Pickens and get a better wide receiver, something of that exchange. That's my current suggestion. But ultimately, outside of that, maybe you drop Corum as well and you go after Sermon or Chase Brown or something of that exchange. That would also be in the works. Thank you. Rogo says Jennings, Higgins, or Swift in the flex in week 5. As of right now, I don't even know who Cincinnati plays. Let me think about this. Cincinnati Bengals play against the Baltimore Ravens. They'll probably have to throw for majority of that game. At this point, Swift against Carolina, if I get the Swift of last week again, I'd probably play Swift. Even though, T. Higgins led the team in targets, that matchup is just too good for me to pass on. All right, Yeet of 78BG sends in a question. Says, I traded St. Brown and Montgomery for Breece Hall and Ayuk today. Also traded Jaden Daniels for ETN. I have Bijan, London, Kelsey, and Mahomes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't know if I like any of that, to be honest. Getting Breece Hall is great, but ETN, Montgomery don't really have comparable value at the moment. Like, Breece Hall is going to have to be better than Ayuk. Breece Hall is going to have to be better than St. Brown. And Ayuk's going to have to be better than Monty rest of the season. Based on how they've looked thus far, you've definitely bought low, theoretically, based on what you gave. Sending away Daniels and only getting back ETN, especially when you have Mahomes, I would have rather have traded Mahomes and gotten literally Najee Harris than have traded away Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is going to be so much more valuable than Mahomes rest season. It's tough to give him away. Okay, anyway, moving on. We go on to a question that comes in from Peyton Whitaker. Thank you, Peyton. Says, damn dog, out talking about both my tight ends. Yeah, listen, Mark Andrews and Pitts are cooked. I don't know what to tell you. I had so much hope for them, but obviously the offenses just do not prioritize them. Humidity sends in a question. Says, if I have Fields and Lamar in a full PPR, should I trade Achane and Mark Andrews for Jacobs and Fryer Muth? I don't understand why the Fields and Lamar question even is... Why does that matter? If I have Fields and Lamar, I don't understand what the context of quarterback plays within the question of the trade. You're just asking Achane and Mark Andrews for Jacobs and Fryer Muth. Rest of season, God. Depends how desperate you are. If we are in we're 0-4, I could say yes. But if we're not and we're 2-2, I don't think I take that deal. I think I hold on to Achane and I wait it out. We move on to Medina 2197, who says, I have Pitts and Andrews. Do I drop both? I don't know if you drop both, but definitely can't start both. And you can't not even start both. You can't start either. I'm going to be honest. You can't start either. You can't. I'm not going to suggest them. When it comes to Thursday, they're not on the list. I cannot do it. And guess what? This week, they're going to have their best weeks yet. I promise you. I promise you. Just like Michael Pittman and DeAndre Swift decided to show up when we all gave up. Watch. Just wait. Ibrahim says, we get it, 3-1. Also, we did it, 3-1. Also, Christian McCaffrey out for a while, question mark? Yeah, it doesn't look like it's good. I got Mason. Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you haven't been able to ship away Mason, consider yourself, you're continuing to get more and more lucky with all the information coming out. 12-man, 1-3, with Josh Allen, Breece Hall, Bijan, and Montgomery. Yeah. Can you imagine? Bijan and Breece Hall? If someone... Yeah, I would have never imagined a world where Kamara is playing this well at this age after... I know he was great last year. Trust me, I know. I was screaming from the rooftops this offseason. The guy was averaging 20 points per game from weeks 4 through 16. But who would have thought that would have continued at this age? It's crazy. He's outproducing 23-year-olds. Wild. Craigslist user says, I'm in a half PPR. Really trade ETN for Olave? ETN, more points so far. ETN, more points so far, but just look at the team. They're 1-9 in terms of their overall record in the last 10 games. And it doesn't look like they're going to be stringing together wins. And like I mentioned in the offseason, the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, the Jacksonville Jaguars, when they're in positive game scripts and winning, when you look at the splits of ETN, wins versus losses, in winning games, he's averaging 18 points per game in 2023. In losing games, he's averaging 10 points per game. So if you want a 10-point per game player for the remainder of the season, that's what ETN will provide. And I don't have an issue with that. 10-point per game players is going to be a top 24 back, without a doubt. But does Olave provide more? And I think the answer is yes. Anakin sends in a question, says, I'm 0-4 after tonight. Top 5, 6 in points. Was third before tonight. Allen, Pacheco, Pollard, Brian Robinson Jr. I mean, again, even Pollard and Brian Robinson Jr. still good. Moss still good. Marvin Harrison, Godwin, Ayuk, Rice, that kills you. Goddard, Andrews, Kaimi Fairbairn. What do I do? Okay, so based on the way that this team looks, with Pacheco and Rice pretty much cooked, you are in a position with 0-4 where you need to trade away Pacheco off your team, gone. Give it to whoever. Take a bag of peanuts back. But you need to try to position yourself to. I don't know if you can wait for Ayuk. Maybe it's like I'm taking Pacheco to a team that's 4-0. I'm saying, hey, you want to win a championship once we get to week 10? Here you go. Here's the place. But also, I need a wide receiver or running back in exchange. And also, I can give you Ayuk if you want more comfort on it, and then try to get something in return. Because otherwise, like Brian Robinson and Pollard will function. So will Allen. So will Marvin Harrison. So will Godwin. But the rest of this team is not as sharp as it needs to be at the moment. Drace sends in a question, says, in a 12-team full PPR, I'm 1-3. I have Goff, Henry, Kamara, Evans, Tyreek, Kincaid, Moss. My bench consists of Jameson, Okay. So in terms of your starting lineup, Goff, Henry, Kamara, Evans, Tyreek, Kincaid, Moss. Tyreek is a disaster until further notice because, again, he doesn't have a quarterback. Bench Jameson, Herbert, Jameson Williams. I don't know which Herbert that is, whether that's like Justin Herbert or Khalil Herbert, doesn't matter. Carr, Eckler, DJ Moore. What should I do rest of the season? Any trades? If someone is willing to give you a top 5 wide receiver, like an AJ Brown, for Tyreek Hill, I would do that trade. Outside of that, I mean, like, again, if Jamar Chase, if Malik Neighbors, if Nico Collins, if CeeDee Lamb, if anybody wants to offer any of those to you for Tyreek Hill, beautiful. Outside of that, you're almost in a position where you probably won't get. I mean, even if like someone, let me see this. Somebody offered me like Amon-Ra, I'd take it, obviously. But outside of that, like, I'm not taking. Would I take Mike Evans? I think I'd consider it. Depends on what your record is. What is your record? 1-3? Shit. You already have Evans. Never mind. Going back to the list. Shoot, we are in trouble. Because selling Tyreek Hill, theoretically, like, yeah, Tyreek Hill has to be sold. So you have to go figure out who wants to buy him off you and try to move him. Because at 1-3, you would technically have to wait for Tua to return. If he even returns. Again, that's so much of an if. Because if he doesn't, you're done. He won't come back until, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3. He won't come back till, this is 4. He won't be back till week 8. So if you can survive, you're currently 1-3. If you can take 1, 2 more losses, 3 more losses, you're 1-7. You're out of the playoffs. You got to make a move. You got to move Tyreek. Try to get any sort of wide receiver depth back in return. Thank you. Ziggy Lee says, are we trusting any Bears wide receivers next week? Against Carolina? Yeah, sure. DJ Moore's probably the highest ranked. Outside of that, probably nobody else. Everybody else will be like low 30s or technically high 30s, low 40s. Lou sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, trade Shakir and Mayfield for Ayuk. In terms of long-term value, if you have Kyler, you have DJ Moore, you have Pickens, I'm okay with it. That's fine by me. I don't have an issue with that. Luke C sends in a question. And he says the following. Drop Mark Andrews for Kraft. Nope. I get it, but no. I have Likely and do I drop okay. Do I drop Mark Andrews for Kraft? I don't think I can do it. I can't stomach it. You got look, if you're gonna do it, you do it. You don't tell me that you're gonna do it. Listen, Mark Andrews is such a legend. He is such a fantasy stud. And I have a sentimental value attached to him. Dropping him for Tucker Kraft is like, that's it. Like, you take the dog behind the barn and you put him, like, I don't want to put him down yet, man. I'm not done with him. I haven't enjoyed my final days of Mark Andrews. Give me a couple weeks and maybe we can talk about it. Damn it, dude. Jeez, man. It's going to make me cry out here. Mark Andrews is cooked. Damn it. All right, moving on. We have your further question. And drop Ty Chandler with no Aaron Jones on roster. Minnesota defense have Denver. Also Emmanuel Wilson. Have Jacobs for Flacco. Yeah, I'm okay with dropping. Minnesota's defense is something you might want to hold on to. Because, again, they'll take on the Jets this week and they'll probably put a number on them. So it's probably a Chandler drop in order to pick up Flacco and then utilize him theoretically. Luke, thank you. We move on to a question from Twisted Folk. PPR, I'm 1-3 rest of season. Rachaad White, Hunt, or Chase Brown, thanks. Rest of season, if I have to rank them, the highest valued player is still Rachaad White. Second is probably, in terms of rest of season, it's Chase. And then number 3 is Hunt. That's the way that I have it. White, Chase Brown, and then Hunt. Because, again, Hunt disappears once Pacheco returns. If he returns, please check out. Please return. Aiden0815 says half PPR. I got offered Bijan and Evans for ETN and Amon Ra. Yeah, I'll take the Bijan Evans side of that deal. Wide receivers are, yeah, I'll take the Bijan and Evans side of that deal. I'm not done with Bijan. I'm not giving up on it. Thank you. Tiago sends in a question. Says, I'm in a 10-man non-PPR league. Burrow, Bijan, Bucky, Bruce, Brown, Brooks, Braylon Allen, Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison, London, JSN. Okay, T. Higgins, Worthy, Kincaid. I'm 2-2. Shouldn't be panicked, but I am. Yeah, I think you shouldn't either. Obviously, running back depth is your biggest concern. So if you want to take some of these wide receivers and try to make a move, theoretically you could. Like the idea right now, Thiago, of being able to move Worthy for value, because you could sell the idea, hey, there's no other wide receivers in that offense. Worthy's going to be a huge facet of it. You could theoretically sell that really high because you're probably going to start Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison, in London every game rest of season. And you could probably sell Worthy with a potential upside for a running back in exchange to try to kind of get a little bit more depth in that regard. Brian Colorado says, if I want to trade Montgomery, who should I target in a PPR? Again, like we mentioned, David Montgomery is like a 17 point per game running back. So if we're giving away a 17 point per game running back, I want a 17 or 16 point per game wide receiver. Who falls within the line? Marvin Harrison does. Who else falls into the line? As of right now, I could justify Mike Evans. I could justify Devontae Smith, Stephon Diggs. These are things I can justify. DK, Godwin, Reed. Well, you can't trade for Reed anymore. I told you guys last week. You trade for him now or never, because that's just the window. And honestly, Mike Evans is the same way. You trade for him now or never, and I think the window's already passed based on last week. So probably you can't even get those guys. So probably like Adams, Debo, Marvin Harrison, Devontae Smith, Stephon Diggs. Those are the kind of players, theoretically. Thank you. All right. Continuing on, we had Farouk04 says Rashid Shaheed and Zach Moss for Garrett Wilson. If you have an abundance of depth, I'd say okay, but I don't know if... Let me look at the Jets schedule. All right, so look at their upcoming schedule. Vikings, Bills, Steelers, Patriots, and then they only then, after that point, get a free... Okay, so this is what I'm saying. As of right now, you could try to trade for Garrett Wilson right now, but I think the best time to trade for Garrett Wilson would be prior to Halloween, late October, at the end of this upcoming month. Because end of this upcoming month, they have Houston, then they have the Cardinals, then the Colts, then the Seahawks, then the Dolphins, then the Jaguars, then the Rams. And those are the games that I want to take advantage of. Until then, I don't love Vikings, Bills, Steelers, Patriots. Don't love it. So that's what I'll just say for now. Nicest Nick says, CeeDee Lamb and Josh Jacobs for AJ Brown and James Cook. I'd rather have CeeDee Lamb and Josh Jacobs rest of the season. Thank you. Let's see here. Boy J sends in a question. Says, I'm 4-0. First year playing. I know nothing. Congratulations. I mean, look, the beginner's luck is a thing. Trust me, it is. When you know nothing, you can't overthink anything. Full PPR, I have Mayfield, Singletary, Higgins, Collins, Pitts, Hubbard, Purdy. I don't know how you're undefeated, brother. I don't know how you are. I'm looking at this team. I have no idea how you're undefeated. What is this team? Look, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's just put it that way. I don't want you to break anything. Just leave it as is. You keep winning. C. Banger sends in a question. Says McBride / Books or Laporta Waddle. I'd rather have Laporta Waddle. I'm still in on it. Thank you. Akuma187 says I'm in a 10-team full PPR. I'm 1-3. Trade Terry and Dobbins for Hall. Yes, do it immediately. Have Love. Yeah, if you can do that, I mean, shoot, that's a steal. Smokey the Cat says trade Marvin Harrison and Moss for Gibbs and Bowers. I have Pitts. No. I mean, I get it, but okay, yeah, let's do it. Fuck it. Yeah, let's do it. You don't need Moss. You're getting Gibbs. Gibbs is the equivalent of value of Marvin Harrison, if not more. You get Bowers. That's fine. If you can live with giving away a wide receiver because you have an abundance of depth, that's fine. Luke C says Geno or Flacco this week. I'd rather play Flacco. I'm going to be honest. I think I'd rather play Flacco. Kenneth Walker's going to run through Jacksonville. Aiden0815 says Olave or Evans. Rest of the season, Evans. Thank you. Itoza says start Kirk, Tyreek Hill, Flowers, Wicks, Downs, Leggett. Okay, here's the thing. Downs cannot be started unless we get a confirmation that it is Flacco. So until then, Christian Kirk plays under the assumption that Evan Ingram misses another week. He probably plays alongside of... Let me think about this. Kirk, honestly, Kirk, Wicks, and Leggett might be your plays this week, Itoza. I'm going to be honest. Looking at it across the board, that kind of seems like what it might end up being, which it's breaking my brain. We'll know by Wednesday for sure. By Sunday, for even more sure. Let's see here. Okay, so there was a question sent in from Spencer P, but there wasn't anything attached. Spencer, attach it. Thank you. Baker or Darnold week 5? Baker plays against Atlanta. Darnold versus the Jets. Honestly, the way that Darnold's been playing, and the revenge game against the Jets, I kind of want to flex that, but it's a London game, so I'll probably just take Baker on a short week. Luke C says paid it for $2 not showing. What's not showing? The message? I think I read your question, right? Gino or Flacco this week? Yeah, I think we answered it. If you didn't hear it, Luke, again, probably gonna roll Flacco. But again, that's if in fact he's guaranteed. So for right now, if you're like, hey, who do I pick up tomorrow? If they don't guarantee Anthony Richardson out, you just pick up Gino because nobody else will pick up Flacco until otherwise noted, right? So you just kind of wait. Lou says, is Seahawks still the number one waiver defense? Yes, because they play against the Giants. That's why, yeah. I mean, I would say Denver is arguably in that conversation. So if you prefer to have Denver, then let's roll Denver. I don't have an issue with that. Spencer P, where is your question, my man? I don't see anything. Oh, there it is. Okay, is this a good trade? I'm getting Connor and Benson and Kareem Hunt for Kyron Williams and Cortland Sutton. Okay, this is the way I see it. Connor and Benson is one player, okay? Because without one, there is no other, okay? If I compare Connor and Benson to Kyron, I significantly would rather have Kyron rest season. Significantly more. So that is in one side. Then you have Sutton versus Hunt. The only reason you would trade Sutton for Hunt is because you need running back depth. Because understandably, Sutton is still going to have value rest season. Not a top-tier wide receiver, but still someone that is going to be implicated for fantasy points. While on the other end of the spectrum, Hunt has a ticking time bomb until the return of Pacheco, which could very easily be week 9, 10, depending on the Chiefs' upcoming schedule. Let's see, schedule. When's their bye week here? So the Chiefs have a bye week in week 6. So theoretically, based on missing 1, 2, 3, okay, actually, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say he comes back week 11. You could theoretically get another 6 weeks out of out of Hunt. If you're like super desperate, you make that trade. But I think I'd rather have Kyron in Cortland rest of the season, to be honest. That's the way that I would approach it. La Rosa says Chubb got a wooden leg. Does he? Is he got a limp? We'll see. Let's see. Trife in the chat says trade Chubb as a Ford owner. What should I give for Chubb? Are you going to trade for Chubb? I don't know if we're going to trade for Chubb. I don't know what we're going to see out of Chubb. He could be cooked. We don't know. He could be cooked. Okay, again, just caught up to answering all the super chats. Do appreciate for those of you guys who sent those in. Again, for those of you who are joining us tonight, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Usually I like to keep these live streams between an hour and a half. We're about an hour 15 in, so I'm going to answer a couple more questions for like 10 minutes, and then Andrew's going to bow out. I'm going to go prepare for tomorrow's running back rankings video, and we'll be good to go. Again, if you guys haven't checked out the waiver wire video from earlier today, again, we did post it on the channel earlier today in regards to top, running backs, wide receivers, etc., with all the context there. Again, if you guys are looking for my rankings in regards to every single Sunday morning, besides the live stream that this upcoming Sunday will be starting at 6 a.m., you can also check out Underdog. Signing up today using code Andrew, making a first-time deposit minimum of $10 gets you those rankings. Not only that, of course, all the potential plays that you could put together. On the Hidden Gems episode, we had a play 500 that turns into 2,000 and it hit. So obviously we're even. We've caught up from, all the debacles of not Tyreek Hill, Achane and Kamara from weeks past. But again, there's a lot of good plays that we've put together as of late. Okay, let's see here. And then also, if you guys want to ask me questions besides the live stream, there's always Patreon. You can ask me unlimited questions there. Thank you. And tomorrow's the beginning of the month. I'd probably suggest you start at the beginning of the month if you were going to sign up. Thank you. All right. Do we try and trade Hill or hold and hope? That is very much so a philosophy based on current roster and record. Hunt can get you 5 points a week. Then why do you put up 9.5? Imagine. Jason says, would you rank Wicks, McConkey, or Downs as wide receiver ads? Wide receiver ads for rest of season? McConkey 1, Wicks 2, Downs 3. Lost Rashi Rex, got it. Also, would you drop Zamir White for Chase Brown or Kareem Hunt? Yeah, I would drop him for either of the two. Chase Brown has greater long-term value because, again, he doesn't disappear with the ticking time bomb of Pacheco's return. Jinx sends in a question. Thank you, Jinx. Jinx says, thoughts on Zay rest of season? Buy low? Zay Flowers? Yeah, I think he's a buy low. This is the thing, right? When we're in a situation where they're quite literally up. Okay, that's 2 back-to-back weeks where the Ravens are up so many points they don't pass the ball. So the thing is, the Ravens are going to beat the shit out of teams this year. They're going to keep doing it. So you are buying in knowing full well that there's a possibility that may continue. But considering the lack of production from Likely and Andrews, Flowers is the guy if they're going to do anything. It says, who would you try to get Pollard for? Who would I try to get Pollard for? Need a half PP wide receiver. Who would you try to get for Pollard? Not get Pollard for, right? There's a difference in terms of where that for is and what the question means. So if I'm trading away Pollard, who am I getting or who am I trying to get in exchange? You could theoretically try to go, at this point, I don't know how possible or I don't know how possible it theoretically is. I'm still in the business of trying to get London and Olaves on my team. I'm still in the business of trying to get, let's see here, Devontae Adams. If he's going to, people are worried about the injury, I'd go buy on that. Garrett Wilson's a wide receiver you could theoretically go after at the moment. Who else is another wide receiver that's got hella value going forward? If I could get guarantees on Deontay Johnson, you could do that. Terry McLaurin's not bad. But really, there's not so much that we're super confident about at the moment going forward. Those are just a couple names that I can think of. And looking at this list, I can think maybe Deebo Samuel as well. Maybe you can go buy low on Ayuk. But again, there's so much risk that it becomes sketchy. That's why you just kind of want to buy the better players. Adrian Acosta sends in a question, says, PPR, I have Josh Allen. I have Breece Hall, Etienne, Ayuk, Reed, Montgomery, Kincaid, Bills defense, Steelers kicker, Rashi Rice and Kupp are injured. Do I panic? Josh Allen, Hall, Etienne, Ayuk, Reed. No, you don't panic. You're fine. Yes, you've theoretically lost a huge chunk of value from your team, but it doesn't mean your season's over. You still get cut back eventually, and you still have built a good enough team to where you don't need to panic. You're fine. Stay calm. Gio Ortiz says, Rice was my most drafted player. I don't know how I can live. Listen, man. It is what it is. It's the nature of the beast. You'll live, man. You'll live. Again, your fantasy teams may not live, but you'll be fine. Luis Duarte says, starting lineup consists of Burrow, Kyron, Ramondre, Hill, Diggs, Bowers, Metcalf, Reed. Record is 2-2. Can I trade anyone to get better or keep the same? Really, at this point, never mind. Luis's question has been message retracted. Okay, then we will no longer answer it. Are Jawan Jennings and Rashid Shaheed sell highs? Jawan Jennings should have already been dropped. But if you could sell them, then sure. 5 Cool says, hey, sorry if you answered this, but PPR, what kind of running back wide receiver value can you get for Ford and Worthy? Again, it's very dependent on who wants to buy Ford right now. Because Chubb is going to come back this week. At least practice this week. Maybe not play until week 6, but Chubb's coming back. So Ford's value is going to be extinguished soon. Now, as for Worthy, that is very much so dependent on what people see as his value. Again, if he's only going to be a deep receiving threat and never going to be able to function, like hopefully they put him in the slot receiving role and turn him into Rashee Rice. Now, he's not the same player. He's not as, like route running wise, he's not as crisp yet, but they can get him there. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see as to how they want to approach it as of right now. They'll probably put Juju in the slot, to be honest, which is sick to my stomach value, but we'll see. In terms of what you can get for Worthy's the most valuable piece there. So maybe you can trade Ford for Najee Harris and steal that from them. But Worthy's value is, again, very much so dependent on what someone is willing to give you for him. And at this point, like maybe someone will give you like a Deontay Johnson or a McLaurin, which again could be very similar value to Worthy rest of season because he is literally the only wide receiver that we can trust for the Chiefs rest of season, which again, yeah, maybe you can go buy low on Garrett Wilson, buy low on Ayuk theoretically. Sean Trevino says PPR Bucky or Hunt rest season. Bucky. Again, Bucky doesn't disappear. Hunt eventually will with Pacheco's return. Malik for Jameer and JD5. If you are desperate at running back and quarterback, I'd be okay with it. But again, Malik Neighbors is like top 5 wide receiver rest of the season based on his usage. Okay. Got it? Good. All right. That's going to be it, guys. I appreciate y'all. It's what? Almost 10 p.m. PST. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, this was an hour and 20 minutes, kind of meeting in the middle between the hour and a half mark. Appreciate y'all coming through. Again, I'll be back tomorrow. Not only, of course, with the running back rankings video, but tomorrow night I'll be streaming on the channel, probably around 7 p.m., 7:30, something of that range. Do appreciate y'all. If you have any other questions, again, check out the Patreon link down in the description. You can sign up tomorrow so that it's at the beginning of the month so you don't get any like recharge or any bullshit like that because that's how it functions on their website. But anyway, check that out. Thank you very much. Outside of that, I'm cueing the music. Have a good night. And we'll be back tomorrow night answering questions for Waiver Wire. Appreciate y'all. And until then, have a good night. See you. Peace.